Did you ever hear that before, that you're too loud? Once or twice in your life.
Especially tells me a lot.
Oh, okay.
As usual, Saturday game, so we'll have a breakout at the end for the dailies. Having an embargo until 10:30, and we'll change the routine because we just seen Vinny, so we'll start with PRP.
Jurgen, first of all, what's the team news coming into this game? Do you have any players back that weren't available to start on Monday night?
To the squad? Same squad possible.
Monday night.
Yeah, same squad. Nothing happened. We could have come back since then. No, Ibu not yet. Luis not yet. But that's it pretty much. That's the only news. Nothing happened on the injury side. So Diogo not available. Calvin had surgery, not available. But that's it.
What were your thoughts on how Diogo came through on Monday night, getting time off the bench?
Yeah, it was important to get the time, but obviously you could see it there. That was clear, but we knew that that it would happen. So that's why we tried to give them as early as possible and allowed some minutes, because it's completely different. Whatever you do in the training pitch, these first 10-15 minutes in an intense game, they feel like, oh my God, it's torture. And so you have to go through this, but then it was not too long, so they could train properly the next day, and that's now obviously very helpful for this week. Now 1 session today, and then we will see how we line up.
17 games left to play. Obviously, there's a gap to the top 4, but this is a big game, isn't it? Given you've got a game in hand, if you could get 3 points as well, suddenly the whole narrative can turn.
Yeah, massive game. So if we want to reach something this season, we have to chase everybody. So and especially the teams ahead of us in the table. There's no doubt about that. It's not easy. It will never be easy. But I think the only way you can do is to give it a try, and that's what we have to do, of course. And but everybody knows that. We don't have to mention that. That's clear. And so tough one. Newcastle, best defense in the league. Lost only once, I heard now again. Didn't even know that. That was against us, and we needed a late goal. So obviously very, very consistent, which is the first step into success always. Yeah, will be absolutely interesting. So it's a tough place to go. Was always for us. Hopefully we can build on the performance for Monday, because that was obviously the main difference to a lot of other games we won. After the World Cup break, we won 2 games, but we were not overly happy with the way we played, so you cannot really build on it. This time it was different. This was us, and it looked like us. And I think people said after the game that Everton didn't do this or that, as much as they did against Arsenal. I really think it was because we did particularly well, to be honest, in that game. But that's a point to prove again tomorrow.
Final question from me. At Newcastle, you said only lost once this season. In previous years, you've been on these terrific runs. How much respect do you have for what they've done?
Absolutely. Oh, Eddie's doing an exceptional job. Absolutely exceptional. So, yes, we all spoke about that, and when you ask me about that again, it's like the financial possibilities they have or will have in the future is exceptional, but it's and so far it's not that it's because of that, not at all. So Eddie came there in a difficult situation. They stayed comfortably in the league, stuff like this. Then and then the new season, it's not like you didn't recognize the team anymore from last year. It's like a complete overhaul or whatever. So building on the team they had, improving players were there, like Almiron. I always liked him, but with the way they are playing now, obviously it fits him extremely well. Callum is obviously a fantastic striker. I'm not sure if he's injured tomorrow or not, but it's fantastic. Bringing Ishak makes absolutely sense. So building a team. Bruno Guimaraes, of course, is a massive player for them, and all this kind of thing. But then loads of players. Trippier came in, but lots of players were still there. So, and that speaks obviously volumes about the manager, how much he turned it there around and made them a proper threat for everybody. And it's a super intense football style. So in a difficult team to play against.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Yeah, but were you expecting them to go about things a little differently in their recruitment, rather than building relatively steadily? I mean, they have spent money, but they possibly haven't quite gone mad with it.
No, I didn't really think about it. It's not that I have to think a lot about Newcastle. So it's not like this. It's just in the moment you recognize what they are doing, and then that's it. It's not. They had no idea for them how they should do it.
Well, obviously, I mean, you work slightly different in terms of the way that you've had to build, I suppose. At times you have been able to spend those big amounts of money, but it's been when you sold players on.
What did I do different?
In terms of recruitment, you've kind of been able to sell players for a big amount of money, and then being able to recruit in that way, which is obviously a different kind of model to the way Newcastle have done things so far.
Yeah, but it's the only difference is where the money is coming from. So that's the only difference. The rest is, I think, apart from that, we did it a similar way. Don't know exactly, but it was not that we 6 players in, 8 out, and now let's go again. I think you have to do it step by step. But if somebody tells you, one of your bosses tells you, but we do it now by bringing in 12 players in once, and then you have to deal with that. So we have a lot of power in the manager's chair, but not all the power. So that means we have to do as well sometimes what other people are telling us, and that's normal.
And is Virgil, after being on the bench for the Merseyside derby, is he fit to start?
I think so. Yeah. Just now. Yesterday he looked absolutely ready. I think today he will look the same, and then we make a decision.
Carlos.
Hi, Jurgen.
Hi.
Stefan Bajcetic, played really well in the derby again.
He did.
Played very well. Such a young player. When you have a young player like that, and you want to give a player a rest, how difficult is it to make that decision to take him out when he's playing so well, and you've also got big game after big game coming up as well?
Yeah, it's not that difficult, to be honest. It's just we have parameters. We know we can read numbers, stuff like this, and these kind of things. And then, but it's then all very individual. So it means even a lot of players are young. They're still different. So we have a close eye on that. We judge that all the time if he's ready again. So far, there were no signs that we had to rest him, but it was good for us because we're long, or for him, long breaks between the games. That's absolutely no problem. How it is with 3 games a week, I don't know. So we will have to see that. But we have other players as well, and it was not. Stefan played exceptional, and not because he's 18 or only 18. He played just exceptional. So that's actually the best thing to say. But it was for sure Fabinho's best game for a long, long time, and Hendel played exceptional. So that's just to talk about midfield. So that helps, obviously. And Naby before did not bad. We didn't win games and stuff like this, but that was not up to Naby. We have other players who are ready to go. So that's the first time that we had a lot of players not involved in the squad for the first time, senior players not involved in the squad for a long time. So there are options now there, and long may it continue. Like
and you've got those options up front now with Diogo coming back and Roberto coming back, and you've not been able to make as many changes up front, have you, in recent times? So how good is it to have those players that have options back as well?
That's massive. But again, Bobby was, in the end, it was 8 weeks as well. So that's long. It's a long time, and Diogo obviously was longer out. So we have to look now how we can use them. But of course now the amount of games coming up. So we hope we can go to the next round of Champions League as well. So it means we will have 17 in the league, but 2 more at least in Champions League. Hopefully 4, 6. What do we need for 7 or whatever if we want to go to the final? Probably, yeah. So we would be ready for that. So for that you need changes, and that was a big problem in the past round. When we started again, it was a massive problem because we started playing immediately, and there we couldn't change at all, and had to integrate a new player, and Darwin was not fit, and all these kind of things. There were a lot of things, but now hopefully it stays like this. So that would be great because that's what you need to get kind of consistency in performances.
Move on, Carly. Thank you. Next one.
Silvia de Televisión Española. Yo te quería hacer 2 preguntas. La primera, insistir en Stefan Bajcetic, ¿qué te parece? Y luego, si eres consciente de que eres uno de los entrenadores más queridos y más populares en España? Muchas gracias.
And now you need to ask it in English.
In
English, yeah, go on.
I don't speak Spanish. Somebody told you I speak Spanish. Anybody speaks Spanish?
About Stefan, and in Spain, Klopp is very, very popular.
Oh, thank you. I should have understood that. Yeah. So, what about Stefan?
What do you think of Stefan?
What do you think?
Yeah,
It's very important for Liverpool. It's very
it is.
Only
18 in October. He turned 18 in October, yeah. So, just 18. So, yeah, top talent, super player, played really, 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 really good for us so far. Since he is with us, it's a pure joy to work with him. I think the mix of Serbia and Spain is a good one for football. And not sure you met him, but if you meet him, he's a top, he's an intelligent boy. As I said, a joy to work together. The interesting part is that his dad and Thiago's dad played obviously together for Celta Vigo. So Thiago, not only Thiago, but Thiago as well took him a little bit under his wings. So he has a great bunch of players around him he can learn from. And yeah, absolute joy to work with.
More popular and loved in Spain, you?
Me. Yeah, that's the reason for that. It was the same when I was in Germany. People told me I'm very famous in England until I arrived here. So, and that would be the same in Spain. If you know me closer, that you will realize it's not that good.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Ask Vinny. Or other people.
Not the open, Dave.
Yeah, you just asked about Klopp and Ramsay. You'd like to miss the rest of the season after that decision.
Yeah, that's what I heard. It's nothing. Obviously, I missed the rest of the season. Serious, but Calvin, it's really special. So Calvin arrived here and had a back problem I never heard before. So it's just like when you're in the growing process, it can happen. But he played all the games, didn't really feel anything. Then you come here and you make a proper check, and then it's like, okay, here's something. We need to have a closer look, and then you have to. So he had no real pain or whatever, but was not allowed to train for a long period, because otherwise you can, for a young person who is still growing, it can create real problems for in the long term. So it was no chance. Coming back into a new team, never. I asked him when we spoke, when it was clear that he has now the new injury. I had him in my office and asked, what do you think, how often have you been your absolute best yourself, pretty much? And he said, oh, not often. I say, never, not one day. So now we have to use that, because you couldn't. It's like you want to adapt to a new thing, but you didn't train for 4 months, stuff like this. It's really tricky. So he always was this step behind. Now he has that injury this season, or even if you could come back a bit earlier, that makes no sense, because now it's really to build the boy up physically and then have a new start when we go again. So we can play catch up all the time with him, because he's a great talent, a real talent who had the most unlucky start possible. But in the end, when he finished his career with 36, 37 or whatever, then if you can say then, the most difficult year of my career was the first, or the second in his case maybe. Yeah, that's absolutely okay. All the others were better because we did the right things in the first two. So that's what we try to do now with him.
Last question in this section to Kiva.
Yeah, just on Fabio Carvalho, obviously he scored that late winner against Newcastle, and he hasn't played much so in recent weeks, I guess. Is there a reason for that, and I guess what have you made of his progress in his first season so far?
Yeah, Fabio, a very young player as well, and big talent as well. Absolutely played well for us in a couple of games. Now it's the situation that we have to make a squad, and he couldn't make it for the last one. That's how it is. That's the truth. Didn't play too often because, from my point of view, we needed different skills when we started or when we changed during the games, and that's pretty much all. He did nothing wrong. He improved a lot. He developed a lot. He's a good kid and is in the middle of the group, in the middle of the team. So that's all fine. But obviously not in a happy place. In a moment, you cannot see that on a pitch, or when I see him, it's not really obvious. But I can imagine, because he's a footballer. He wants to play, and he didn't play often enough. So that doesn't help a lot. But that's another thing in a long career where you have to go through, and yeah, for me it looks in a moment that he takes it as good as somehow possible.
Move on to the embargo section for the dailies. Everything embargoed until 10:30 tonight. Andy Hunter.
Jurgen,